History on the Go. As the title of my channel, History on the Go, that means I will be doing some history while I'm out and about. I'm up in the city of London right now, and I wanted to talk about something. I'm actually going to be uploading a new video soon, but this is going to be something in between, something that's going to be while I'm out. And the topic is, do you have to live in America to know about America? The reason I asked that question is because recently a person on a channel that was making some comments about America was implying that I wouldn't know anything about America, because whatever I've learned in England is not going to be accurate. So it kind of prompted me to sort of want to say something on that, and because I think that person's not the only person that said that to me, and so I wanted to open this up as a just to sort of see what you guys think, see what people think out there about what I'm going to say. Now, the way I understand things is that many years ago, when there was no type of communication between England and America, where the communication was just by ships, where ships used to go forth, then the information used to travel quite slowly between those two nations, and so you could understand in those days that people would have a limited view of what America was like. It took time for us to understand American history and so forth, because, as I said, information would have been much slower. But nevertheless, even from the early days of American history, information would have been written down, and books would have been brought from America to England. We know books is one of the greatest ways that people get to understand anything about life. I know most of you listening to me right now wasn't alive when maybe Malcolm X was living. But for you to know about Malcolm X, how do you go about it? How do we know about Malcolm X now? Well, I can tell you, and most of us should know this. And the reason why I'm saying this is that the reason why I'm saying this is because the same way I can discover about Malcolm X and what his life was about, is the same way that you living across the pond, if you're living across the pond there in America, it's the same way you're going to find out, and that's going to be through books and through technology, which is television, documentaries, films that's been made about Malcolm X, books that's been written about him. As I said before, Alex Haley wrote, I think, the first book about Malcolm X. So just sitting down and reading that book, you're transported into the time of Malcolm X, and that's what books is all about. When you read a book, it takes you to that place and the time. And so I feel that some people seem a bit ignorant when they sort of give you this thing that because you're living in England, what are you going to know about America? Well, I want to say, as you can see, I'm not exactly a young chap. I'm not old. I'm not an old man. I wouldn't say that I'm an old man. But what I'm saying is that I've been around a little bit. So I grew up in this country here in England, here in the 1970s. And so TV in 1970s, a good portion of it, about 80% of it, is American. You know, people in the West, I say in the West, in Europe, they get fed a diet of American TV. I don't think Americans actually really grasp how much their country influences the world. I don't think they really grasp how much American media is dominant in every part of the world. And people, even when they learn English sometimes, in Germany, they learn it the American way, because, as I said, America is very dominant. So as a young man growing up in England, I would have got a good knowledge of America just for TV, even though not all of it's going to be accurate, obviously, because some of it's fictional and some of it only shows you the bad things about America. But anything to do with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, from a young kid in this country, from a young kid, I've been hearing stuff about Martin Luther King. Even in my school, they talked about Martin Luther King. I know he's what we call one of the common things that a lot of people know. But what I'm trying to say here is that the books that people talk about, the books that people would research about Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, those books come from America. They're American writers that's written about those people. Obviously, we have English writers that's written about them too. So from a very, say far back, from 1970s, we was connecting with America. And before that, obviously, this is I'm talking about my time as a young man. And so I'm just trying to put over here, what I'm trying to put over here is that we're living in a time right now that's even more advanced than when I was growing up in the 70s. In the 70s, there was no internet. All we had is books, and the books were so informative. I remember at a very young age in what I call primary school in America. I don't think you call it primary school. I would have been about 9 years old, and I remember taking this book from the bookshelf, and this book had a lynching in the book. It was a lynching of a black man, basically. And I was a young boy looking at that. So even in my what we call primary school here in England, they had books that was dealing with the lynchings of black people. And so we grow up with that diet and we understand it. But when people like someone like me now, I've taken it a 10 steps further than that, because I'm interested in history from a young age. From 14 years old, I've been studying black history and history as a whole. And so American history has been a lot of that studies come. It's been American history, and so it seems quite obvious what I'm saying here. It seems quite stupid of me even to speak about it, but what I'm trying to say here is that I don't need to be in America to know about America, because the world has been connected through books, and those books come from America. And now we had television. There is so many documentaries about America, and then we have the internet. We have family that live in America. We have everything that helps us to understand the culture of America, and so we can gain some understanding. Do you know that a person could know more about a place than the person that lives in that place? A person can sit down right now and just learn something about my town that I don't know, because there will be thousands of articles written by people from that town telling people, oh, this is what my town is about. If you go around the corner there is a shop, and there is this and there is that. You know what I mean? There's detailed accounts of a person's town on the internet, and it's accessible to any person in the world, unless your country is like, you know, some parts of the world where they're limiting the internet and you don't get the chance to see everything. Unless you have that, you will be able to access information about anything.